Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this very exciting episode of Limitless Conversations. As we not only have two guiders today, but we have four, and I'm very excited for you guys to receive, to be open to the messages. And I'm so excited to introduce some familiar faces that have been here before, but also a new one as we dive into the topic today of dancing through discomfort in alignment with the new moon in Scorpio happening on November 1st at 8:47 a.m. Just touching base here on some themes before we dive in. Actually, let's pause and let's just introduce ourselves. Y'all introduce who we are, and then we can dive in and let you guys know a bit about the themes, right? So if you haven't been here before, welcome. My name is Aliana Lim. I'm a transformational coach, Reiki practitioner, and an experiential hostess. Handing it over to Casey on my screen here.
Hello. Greetings, everyone. I am Casey Olivia. I am a spiritual development guide, a Reiki practitioner as well, and I'm very excited to be here. And I will hand it on to Nalini, who is on my left on my screen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nalini Akal. I am in art, dance, theater, and film. And I'm also currently writing a few books on self-healing and also based in the feminine. I'm working, my first book that is coming into works right now is Amending Lotus, as well as they're kind of in tandem, I should say, and Toward the Goddess, Away from the Doll. So so those two. It is an honor to be here. In terms of dance, it's a long list, as I call it, because it's art, as it's art, dance, theater, film. It's like belly dance, flamenco, somatic, circus. It's all these things. At the end of the day, at the core of everything is how do we find our flow and how do we find our connection with self that really answers it all. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And I hand it over to Rashida Wall.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing. My name is Rashida Wall. I also go by Righteous Sun. I am a Reiki master, a psychic, and a medium. I just help people find their path and empower them to continue on their journey in their most authentic self. I'm really blessed to be here. I'm excited for this conversation, and I look forward to see where it goes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This intro does not do all these ladies justice. So I encourage you at the end of this conversation to check out their links below. I will tag them and to see more exploring on how they can help you on your self-healing journey, right? Okay, let's dive in, y'all. Today, we will be talking on some different themes and topics. Number one, self-mastery, y'all. The journey of freeing self of emotional, spiritual, and energetic burdens, clearing out the junk and the gunk, sitting with the topics of societal taboo, such as intimacy, control, power, sex, money, sensual expression, passions, and just focusing on how we can express these and accept these. Forgiveness, forgiveness is a big thing, and healing our ancestral trauma, our now for future generations to come, and in conjunction with divine feminine, as we're all divine feminines here. So how do you accept and express that side of yourself? Ladies, so excited. Anybody would like to add anything as we have the theme of the new moon in Scorpio? Anything that you would like to share on that topic as well?
All I was going to say is it's going to get spicy. That's it.
Well, I was going to say this new moon in November 1st also aligns itself with Diwali. So it is a very spiritual time. I mean, people have already started fasting, and it's a time of lessening on the meat. And in fact, Hindu practitioners are not eating meat at all at this time. Most of them are vegetarian, but it's a time of really clearing out no alcohol, making it's a very purging time. At least in the Bhagavad Gita and the story of Ram Leela, which I also take part in, I'm actually the demon, Lankini. So I play like the demon of evil thinking or negative thinking. That's the purpose of her. And Hanuman, who's the monkey god, he is he's a very powerful mover. And you know, when you align things in Hinduism to the chakras, there is a direct understanding. You can see where how does my thinking affect my ability to move mountains. So that this year, especially being in Scorpio, I honestly will not lie, I have been feeling the Scorpio energy, and Rashida helped me on Saturday when we had our last event really a lot. Accepting the darkness that I've been dealing with. And it's not like darkness is we have to run from it, but it's more like our own mental states as we pass through these things. And I found that it did help, like being aware of how much we're attaching to the darkness. Again, Lankini and her negative thinking. And in the end, Hanuman defeats Lankini so that he can enter into the kingdom, you know? So, because he's on a quest. And of course, you'd have to follow the Ram Leela to see the amount of details. Multi-hour, multi-week-long event. But the idea here is that at the end of the day, we all want to go towards the light, and we want to get Mother Lakshmi's space where we're all about the divine feminine. It is a space of light overcoming darkness. And the new moon, that new moon in particular, is that space just before winter where we've collected our harvest. We are preparing the seeds for the new spring. And we are getting ready to give ourselves that rest, you know? And I think that's what at least it speaks for me. And my birthday is on November 2nd. So yeah. And Diwali doesn't finish on, like, we're celebrating it here on Halloween, which is Samhain. But yeah, we're celebrating on the 31st of October this year, which is unusual. Day of the Dead is being celebrated in Trinidad on the 30th, even though it's on the 2nd of November this year. But Diwali also has about 5 days, so it's crossing over till November 2nd, November 3rd. We're still in that 5-day span of Diwali, you know? Just so you know that the energy of this moon is also gonna, he has some span behind it. Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah.
This actually inspires me to you know what you were speaking to, Nalini, about the darkness piece and what we were able to receive from Rashida on Saturday. One thing that is coming to me that I want to just drop in here is that it is also a time of letting go. Like, just as you were speaking to just clearing out that energy, Ali, you mentioned earlier as well. But there's this like really loud voice wanting me to emphasize that this is a time where like that grudge that you were holding, whether it be against yourself or against someone else, you know, that part of you that doesn't want to let go, this energy is a really great time for you to sit with it, face it, accept it, have a conversation with it, and trustfully bless and release it. And so thank you for inspiring me to just interject there.
Yeah.
I like where this conversation is going. I love listening. I can't even lie. I really do love listening. I talk so much that sometimes I just love listening, and I love meeting new people that can bring so much brand new, fresh insight. I want to say just I got goosebumps saying that. Thank you, Nalini, for sharing all of the cultural, like introspective, like insight that some people might not be aware of. Like that just really helped to like really shed light on that new moon in Scorpio and going into Scorpio season. I think it's absolutely beautiful that you are like walking alongside the darkness and bringing it together and like molding it into one. I think it's amazing. And even ironic, the fact that you actually play what's her name? Like
Lankini. My name is Nalini, and I play Lankini.
Right? And you're talking all about how you as Nalini are learning to embrace that, but you also play it, so it's almost like inevitable that you would like connect the two. I just want to say like thank you so much for sharing all of that. I'm gonna definitely take all of that into account as the Scorpio season is coming up. And then of course, like Casey, like I appreciate how everything is just like balancing it out. You guys are like diagonal each other on the screen. So yeah, thank you both for sharing your insight. And it's so true. I've learned so much, Casey, over the course of even like last year and the last even like few years from 2020 until now, to embrace all of the imperfections, because we think the imperfections, all that stuff, that's the darkness. And yet it's almost like saying, well, I am not perfect. Like, I mean, I had Luna in 2020. She was baby number 4. And I was like, at the time, my partner was like, oh, you got this. You got this. I was turning 40. And I was just like, no, I don't think I got this the way that I used to. And the energy and everything that came up was like, no, like my body isn't the same. Something isn't the same with this one. And it was really about me being honest with myself in terms of like, no, I need that support, need the help. I can't do this alone. And through that emerged like a brand new me, like truthfully with her. She was the one that I gave birth to at home, with like no help. And that was like so scary, but it was also like my first time, and I've always wanted to. So that like brought in so much like strength, and saying like, even through all of that, like the yucky feelings and stuff, you can still bring that along with you and merge into this like new version. And it all helps. It's all part of the big meat of the whole thing, or the big sandwich of it. So yeah. Thank you for bringing this group together.
I had a moment there. I was just thinking, so you gave birth in 2020 at home? That is amazing. That is,
yeah.
I think like
about
no,
that.
saying that I think, but sorry, was that I was just saying that I think that it's interesting because we get this space as a woman where yes, we can actually give birth at home, but we also are faced with these preconceived concepts that you must have a hospital bed, and you must be in these stirrups, and you must take this medicine or this injection to do something that is totally natural.
Right.
Yeah,
you know?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
To know, Rashida, what that if you're open to sharing with us what that experience was like for you, what led you to decide to have her at a home birth. I'm just curious to know what that journey was like.
I chose to have her at home. Well, first because like I had my first child at 24, and to be honest, even then I always felt like something just felt natural in terms of like the birth of a child and a woman. I feel like it's a natural thing to be able to do it without anything, right? To just do it naturally. But then I got scared. Like my mom scared me into like, really, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be the worst pain in the world. And that scared me into going to the hospital and getting epidurals and all of that stuff. And then I thought, you know what? For this being our last baby, which wasn't planned, but like always planned, like in divine timing, I thought, if I'm going to do this one last time, I need to know what my body is capable of. I need to connect with it in ways that I've never connected. And to be honest, everybody around me was like, you're crazy. Like, don't do this. Like, you shouldn't do this. Like, what's wrong with you? Even where I was having like my midwife, I'd never used a midwife before. That was my first time too, using a midwife. Was like, I'm in Scarborough, they're in Markham. So York region is about a half an hour to a 45-minute drive, depending. And we were taking a huge risk, being like, just know that like, if something happens, we can't help you in this hospital that's down here if anything happens. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to choose then to like, Mom, can I have the baby at your house? And yes, she wasn't about that. She was like begrudgingly saying yes, but I knew that like she just wasn't about it. And then I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it on my own terms. I'm going to do it the way that I want to. And I had to get all the naysayers out, because there's so many that was like, girl, you're crazy. Like, I can't even believe this. And I really tapped in. I think that's the moment I really tapped into my soul. I did so much meditation. I did so much preparation in terms of like music and like just sitting with myself and connecting. And when the time arose, I have to tell this, like, just a little quick thing is that we were waiting for a long time. Like, she had gone the longest out of all of them. They're like, you need to hit a certain point. I had all my other ones like very early, and this one she waited a super long time. So it was like a safe time to have her too. Like, she went past the 40 weeks. And they were like, okay, like we're gonna induce you. And I was like, no, like let's keep waiting it out. And then I had a dream the night before and it felt like this knocking, like a knock on the door 3 times. And I woke up and I was like, it's time. This is it.
Oh,
She's ready to go. And the beautiful thing is, like, my partner is Indigenous. We live in a large Indigenous community. And I really wanted to make sure that, like, I could incorporate all the things that I've used and my kids have used throughout, like, since going to school. So the beautiful thing was, is I got to smudge my space with my daughter, who is now 15. We're able to, like, take it easy. My sister came and supported me, and she stayed in the living room with everyone. And I gave birth on the same floor that I'm currently sitting on to have this conversation.
that's beautiful.
And it was the most beautiful experience. Like, I was like, I did it. Like, I did it. My body can do it. And that was the part. It's a mental thing, like what you guys were saying. It's that mental piece of understanding, like, you can do the things, you can overcome it, you can move mountains through all of the negative self-talk or the talk that's coming outside of yourself. And yeah, if you can, I'm very blessed to have been able to do it. I have a lot of friends who wanted to and weren't able to go through the full process and had to go to the hospital. So for me to be able to do that, I felt like there's just no words. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah.
Thank you.
A very sacred story. And I'm so grateful that you are sharing this. And I know that this is a question, as a lot of my new friend had a baby, you know, like you're the first person I've ever met who's had a home birth, like who I know who's done it, and to hear it firsthand, like live right now, and that you're in the space where the energy of birthing was held is it's such so much gratitude for this moment. And I just also seeing everyone else's reactions in real time. You did what? Like, everyone's so beautiful to witness. And with Nalini sharing earlier about Hinduism and Diwali, I almost forget sometimes, because we live in Trinidad, we celebrate Diwali. It's so normal and part of our culture that when I was away, I think that spiritual side of celebration, I was very disconnected from that. And like, from a young age, even hearing that you're living in a indigenous community, Rashida, as well, hearing how you were able to have your whole family and let it be a celebration of birth around you with your daughter, and just how everyone was honoring you in that moment. It's such a it brings back that like almost, yeah, the first way we decided to live, right, was in community, was in celebration. Casey, yeah, like I just love how you brought in the beginning there with Nalini, and I hope that as we continue through this conversation, like Casey, I know, I remember having a dream once, y'all, and I told Casey that I had a dream that she was pregnant, and I was like, some that you didn't tell me.
Almost, not yet.
Yes, and I remember you telling me that you took that class with, what was it called? Learning about birth, and it was a workshop on pregnancy, I think. You took a workshop? No, I'm wrong there. Okay,
No,
maybe
that wasn't me.
you. Okay.
I don't think so. A workshop on
Okay.
birth.
No, it was a workshop on fertility, maybe.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. Fertility. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. And it's interesting, sorry that you bring it up now, because a lot of what the facilitator was emphasizing was you need to feel safe on a holistic level in order to be as fertile as possible, because it is possible to have to conceive later on in life. I think that's who she was speaking to. She was speaking to folks who are having challenges with fertility and who are having challenges with conceiving, and her approach was this really radical holistic approach to safety. And so not just physical safety, but spiritual safety, emotional safety, environmental safety. I'm hearing a lot of those elements were present with you, Rashida. And so, as you share your home birth story, as someone who aspires to tap into that experience for myself, it's like those two worlds coming together from the workshop and then from firsthand account. So, thank you, yeah, for bringing that up, Ali.
So wait, can I interject? One, and see, in a dream is usually that you have a project that you're working on.
I receive that.
Yeah.
Definitely do.
And the second thing is interesting. I'm going to flip the script on you.
Do it. Let's do it.
So I had a miscarriage, 2009. And I just want to say the miscarriage occurred. And I did so much research on it after as well. Point one is that the part where you say you have to feel holistically secure and spiritually and all these different levels is very true. Because did you know if a woman does not feel secure in that moment, she can actually emit a hormone that will cause the abortion in her body. Yes?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's why, like, for example, in that month, I experienced a trauma for a lifetime, as we call it, where it was my brother had gotten murdered. I found out I was pregnant at the funeral. I found my dad got kidnapped. He was released and everything. So the thing is that idea of security, of feeling in a space, the brain, of course, there was one more thing that just went, that was just the camelback, and I remember feeling like I was just closing a window and someone said something that I was like, and that was the camelback moment. And I felt the trickle inside of me. I felt the trickle of almost like the hormone inside of me. And I said, that's not good. And it wasn't good, So it's like that same concept of negativity, and negativity isn't always like a bad thing. We do need negative emotions. Without them, we can't regulate between the good and the bad, right? We do need these things. But that idea of security, of feeling, I feel secure, I'm okay, I am this, that is something that, as I said, in one moment where, yes, you're pregnant and you're trying to hold, but in the other aspect, your body can actually make an abortion as well. That's how powerful the body is. That's how powerful the mind is. Yeah? So you can stop a project as well.
Right. Yeah.
See? So therefore, even if you have the dream that you had a gruesome dream or something, it's also, I guess I am the darkness. I just say it. But the thing is, if you have that dream, it probably is telling you also you need to stop this project. I'm just showing you the converse of it too. That maybe you need to step away from this project. Maybe you're getting too much toxic energy from people on the project. So, but being pregnant is beautiful, and it will always be something, a symbol of beauty and of projects, of things moving forward, of new life. And
I want to pull it back. I think this is such an incredible example, and I want to honor you, Nalini, for sharing that in that.
Thank you so much.
Because you say it so like this happened. Like every time I've heard this story before, but every time I'm like I say, you went through what? How?
Yeah.
And to see, to know you in person and to see your transformation of just as a young girl, y'all, just anybody watching this, I've been dancing with Nalini since I was 12. I always say this around her. She's has to let people know because I also want it to be a symbol of growth and how much you've been part of my life in my growth process and the foundational things that you taught me as a young girl in how I expressed myself. Oh, I'm getting really emotional.
I know. But the thing is that when you need these things as well to help you grow, right? You need them. Because if you don't crack. I always like to think of it like a bug. And the bug is like, I need to shed off this exoskeleton, and he gets quiet, and then it kind of gets uncomfortable, and then that split happens down, and you crawl out the old skin, and you're in a new space, and you begin to you're vulnerable at first, and then you kind of harden up, and you toughen up, and you get bigger.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just have a question for maybe the viewers also listening in of bringing it back to the mindset, right? And seeing how, Rashida, you had to be very resilient against the outside of what was going on with other people and their opinions. And with you, Nalini, in your story of what is happening in your life, how were you able to overcome that experience with all of that happening at once? You know, like it's a lot for one person to lose somebody, to be in grief, but to lose two things that are very dear
Yeah.
in one go. Just if you don't mind sharing with us how you were able to transmute that.
Definitely happened first is here's another add-on. When you, and this is for people out there who've had miscarriages, you don't just have a miscarriage. Your body actually follows the pattern toward being pregnant, and then it comes away from being pregnant. Because when your body becomes pregnant, you have the baby and you have the reward, and then your body comes away from being pregnant hormonally. But when you have a miscarriage, your body is still going toward being pregnant. And then it meets the date, and then it comes away from being pregnant.
Even if you've lost the baby, like your body is still in pregnancy mode until that
Yes.
age of 9 month cycle.
Yes.
But wow, okay, didn't know
And
that.
you don't really hear anyone speaking about that, like at all. They're like,
Yeah,
oh, you had a
this is my
miscarriage,
first
so
time.
sorry. Right? That's it. But it's not, it's a 18-month, because being pregnant is 9 months pregnant and 9 months out, which is, as postpartum, right? People usually say postpartum and they add you with depression after it for some reason. But it's not always like that. But the truth is and you can also get even more postpartum depression post miscarriage, But yeah, so the thing is that what helped me, it was 2009, and I think it was when I was moving toward Reiki. And by 2012, I began my Reiki journey. 2009, I began level 1 and 2 in a weekend. And then I did a couple years of just being in there. And then I did an advanced, which I always, some people never did level 3, and I did level 3. And then I ended up at an advance in 2015. So I became master in 15. It's Reiki. Reiki is something I know. I can pull a few books that say Reiki is of the occult and it's demonic and occultist. Yes, go. And I can also show you some books, and it's very controversial what I'm about to say.
Dancing with the darkness.
This is not a dark. This is not a dark. This is actually intriguing. It's more intriguing is that so nuns also, there's some nuns in Trinidad that actually practice Reiki, right? Yeah. And I walked into like my daughter's school and I like, Reiki's going on in here. I can feel this thing. I can feel this. And I was like, I'm great. She's here. This is where she's supposed to be, when she was in her secondary school. But then what is more interesting is that when I began to do Reiki and I began to understand prayer in Reiki, then I became closer to Jesus. So then people are like, huh? Because I literally could pull a book here that says Reiki is of the occult, and they align it with Ouija boards and things like that. And I had a friend who had her first Reiki attunement yesterday, not by me, but by someone else. I said, interesting, because there's so many alignments going on today, October 15th through 17th, the comet, the alignments, so much going on. It's a good time. And I told her, when you experience that nausea inside of you, when you're getting the Reiki, your attunement is going on. Let's go back to pregnancy. When you're pregnant and you're getting that morning sickness, it's because a soul is coming through the portal of your legs and you have attunements going on. So it's because you have like attunements going on to bring this soul through. So just saying,
Yeah, I have to add in, wow, you need to keep talking.
Thank you. Real.
Spending a car ride with Nalini.
Wow, yeah, you're teaching me some stuff. Yeah,
Very
that's
powerful.
something that's really interesting. You know why? Because like, okay, Casey, you live here in Ontario, right? And then Nalini, you're in Trinidad?
Yes.
Yeah, and then you're also there in Trinidad. I want to ask a question. First, I want to say, wow, everything that you pointed out, I now need to go back and journal because, wow, I didn't really think about that in terms of like nausea and stuff like that. Yeah, there was a lot of attunement that was happening for me in every single one of them. But I want to ask, how is it in Trinidad? like, okay, we're over here in the what we would say is the Western world. And, you know, Reiki is something that like back in the 70s wasn't Reiki, meditation, yoga, all that stuff was all like, you know, whatever. It wasn't something that was talked about and was looked at as being crazy. We're now in a time over here where, right, it's taboo, but over here now, everybody's doing it. Is it over there in Trinidad, like in the Caribbean culture? I know at least, you know, it's not something that people really speak about still, even though there's a lot of people of color who are getting attuned, a lot of people who are practicing it. But you just said that you have books that say that it's like of the occult. I would have never known that. Over here, it's just like, oh, okay, I've never heard of it before. But over there, you're saying like it's of the devil. Right?
Yeah, aligned with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
So
how is it over there?
So this is the thing, right? I mean, right now in Trinidad, we don't have people who are overtly against Reiki, but I have encountered people who they say it's not for them, which I always respect. I don't honestly advertise that I'm a Reiki master even or practitioner. And even when I'm helping people like energetically and spiritually, I'm not gonna put Reiki on the board first. This is because like my friend yesterday, when she told me she was gonna get her Reiki attunement, I said, okay. I said, once you're ready for what is going to happen next. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, well, it's like what Reiki does is that once you open up that space, you're going to have whatever little impurities in your energy field is going to start coming out. It's like when people go dramatically, who've had like a very meat intensive diet, and they go vegetarian, like boils come out on their skin because the meat is leaving their body, you know. And the same thing has happened to you, but energetically and spiritually on that level with Reiki. And I feel like even for myself, as you enter into master, you're not just, oh, you're a master. It's like you are in a churn now. I call it the churn. This is how the only way I can explain it. It's like you're going up, but you're coming down. You're going up, but you're coming down because you have to go through some stuff to crack the next shell, the next level of your energy, right? And your energy field. And as I tell everyone, I'm like, you know, a rough piano, people can stand and dance on it, but once you become more finely attuned piano, someone leaning against that piano, they're going to throw that piano off. So when people become better singers, they're all super protective and everything. So now your protection has to up.
I needed that. You were speaking to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were speaking directly to me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I speak to Ali about that. Like, I mean, being careful, like, you know, energy wise. I talk about Reiki seepage and all these things.
What you shared with me, Nalini, was about the reverse Reiki, right? Where that person, like you were doing a session once and the person like sucked the energy or something like that. And like,
yes, I speak about, so like one of the issues, because you were asking about trying not to speak, one of my issues, my personal peeves right now, and I've spoken to other people who own spiritual stores about it, and they admitted that what I'm talking about is real, is yes, I know it, yes. So the thing is that, this is just a quick thing. One, be wary of your cleanliness while doing Reiki, physically, spiritually. Two, because these girls were just Reikiing people and moving from one person to the next. And I'm like, that's called residual energy. You are transferring and mucking energy. You're making esoteric cords with multiple people. So you really need to pay attention to that the space that you're giving it. It is a very powerful thing. And it's the energy. It's not like I have Reiki. It's like it passes through me. So even as it's passing through me, I have to be a strong conduit for holding that energy and taking care of myself as well. And I found that certain Reiki practitioners were getting sick or looking older after doing too much Reiki. So that is, again, not paying attention, because when you're opening up everything, and you're also attaching yourself to what residual energy that person had. So you really need to be, this is the opening of my sequence. This is the ending of my sequence. I have cut all esoteric ties. I wash my hands before. I wash my hands after. I wash my hands during. For me, it is a very... And also not to do it too often, because it is using your chi. Reiki is your chi. So it's the universe energy and your chi that is involved. So It's like, I didn't say my controversial part yet, but there
You
is a
did.
story of I'll just finish off the forgotten years of Jesus Christ, the 30 years that he's missing in the Bible.
Yes.
So I have
Yes.
that book, and he's in India and he's in Tibet. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Done.
Ashe.
So,
Ashe.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I am so enriched by this conversation. And I feel like there was a moment where you were speaking about the like residual energy transfer through doing Reiki. And I remember actually I shared this experience with Ali one of the first times that post being attuned to level 1 Reiki was
Like
in
a week, like maybe a
yeah, was
week.
invited to by the teacher to support her to do some Reiki in a group setting. And it was an enlightening experience, but I will say that night I had nightmares. I had like, and I'm a dreamer. And so when I had those dreams, I said it is directly connected to the work that I did the day prior. And it really was a lesson in the topics that you touch on in terms of like ensuring that you are, you know, your energy is open and then it is closed off and then it is cleansed and really doing the work to protect yourself because you never know what can come up and what can come through and what can stick on you as you move forward on your journey. And so that experience definitely opened my eyes to the power because of the power of Reiki and of the power of Reiki as it connects with my personal power as well. And so I thank you for sharing that wisdom.
No problem. I was gonna say the last part was like Reiki seepage, which I was speaking to Aliana about, where your Reiki just turns on because this person needs it. Oh, and that happens, and then all of a sudden you're walking off, and you're like, I think I Reiki'd. It's like like I PP'd. So so it's like that, So once you realize that you did have they call it Reiki seepage, and it goes where it needs to go as well. Like if someone required it, then you make sure you cut your esoteric ties with that person in terms of making sure that you're not attached to them anymore because it did occur, and you're like. And you didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't do your chukures to set up the sequence. You didn't do any daikomyo. So then you have to kind of like bring yourself back in, Reiki yourself, cover that person, and do it as though in reverse, that whole sequence in reverse to protect everyone involved. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Scorpio season is here. He was given. We're giving Nalini. Thank you.
Yeah, but you assisted me so much, Rashida, this weekend. I think, yeah, you were the thing to pull me out I was going through something, and it was definitely attached to the negative thinking. And it is, I feel like very empathetic with people who go through depression and mental illness, where you literally physically feel like you have to crawl out of a hole. But there's no actual physical hole to crawl out of. You have to do it mentally. And I think like your thing of you're holding on too much to the darkness, because you do have to let go. And just to end off my spiels, at the end of Diwali, we burn the Ravan. They spend the entire Ram Leela before building like this effigy of like he's about 30 feet tall, he's sometimes 60 feet tall. Everyone always trying to have the biggest one. Set him upright because he represents all incarnate evil. And then they set him on fire. And there have been years where they couldn't set the evil on fire. They couldn't burn the evil out. And they would have to come and do prayers and then try to set the fire again. But it's the idea that the power of evil could even try to stop you from removing it too. So that is the main part of Diwali that no one knows about. That Ram Leela is such an important part of it. And I'll be in Kuva McBean again, playing Lankini in a couple weeks.
Love it.
Just checking in with you, Nalini, as I know you with your timing. How do
I'm
we
good
feel?
so far. Yeah.
Yes? Okay. How do we feel about, because oh gosh, there's just so many topics here, y'all. So grateful as well to be an observer in this moment. When I'm in the car with Nalini, I definitely think sometimes she's talking, like sometimes you're talking and I'm like, whoa, okay. And like
it's big stuff. It's
I'm
big stuff.
It's like hearing it again. It's of similar, the same stories, but it's in a whole different perspective. It's like I watched conversations, Casey and Rashida, that we've every time I listen to our recording on YouTube, it's
Ashe.
something different that speaks to me.
Ashe. That sticks out.
And so I encourage everyone, especially when it comes to spiritual hygiene and spiritual practice, that even if you're doing something and you're like, oh, well, I know that. I know I've done that,
Mm-hmm.
prayer, whatever it is, come back to it and like continue to practice it, because you may learn
Mm-hmm.
and treat it as if you've never experienced it before. Like I was at a spin class last night, and the teacher was leaving, right? And it was like 10 years of him doing this. And it's interesting because
Wow.
I'm sitting here. Rashida, 10 years in practice. Lini, wait, how long? Way more than 10 years. Well, actually, Lini, you said you got master in 2015, correct?
2015. So I turn
Mm.
10 next year, me. Yeah.
So there's a theme. And I was listening to Colette Baron Reed's, I was re-listening to her day 3 Sacred Business, and she put a 1% rule quote of
Mm-hmm.
1% that you do each day will lead to 7 million% at the end of the year. And in 5 years, I know she put a ridiculous amount. I can't remember the quote there,
I
but
think
it was
7 million was 5 years.
okay. 5 years is 7 million.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at math, y'all, so y'all can figure it out. A very large amount of change. And realizing that I've also been doing this path of limitless living, limitless journeying, of stepping into like committing to this work. It's been 5 years for me, and to notice
Ashe.
how much has come into fruition just having this conversation right here with all of you beautiful beings. Casey, it's been our 5-year friendship anniversary.
Anniversary.
Friendiversary.
Yes.
As we move forward, I really do think I want to touch on that example of what you were talking, Nalini, with energetic ties, right? With the Reiki and the
Mm.
brushing. And this morning, I was listening to another spiritual healer, and she was talking about the topic of sexuality and the exchange of sex, and going
Mm.
into that taboo topic where she said in the ethers of the universes in multi dimensions, how sex is not viewed as something that is taboo or wrong. It is actually something very beautiful. She even went to say like how they be doing it in front of their children because it's so not it's so normal. I was like, whoa. But how in this realm of universe, how we are taught that it is shame, it is guilt, it is not something to be expressed. And
Mm-hmm.
when people have sex with multiple people, right, throughout their life, how that is a form of energy exchange as well, because they may have entities. And she was touching on the low vibrational energy of alcohol, drugs, and all these different things that people can
Porn.
engage before doing active sex. And I love that we started with the topic of birth, of pregnancy, because how
Mm-hmm.
do we get pregnant, y'all? Through sex. And that is a
Mm-hmm.
because it's of creation. It is a creative process. And she was saying with the divine masculine and feminine, how source, that is the ultimate experience of experiencing the oneness, right? The union,
Mm.
when we create that burst of energy, but we've abused it over
Mm.
time. And
Yeah.
so I would love to hear a little bit about your journeys as women with your relationship as you grew older, as you were younger, when that introduced that topic of like, oh, okay, like sex, like discovering. I mean, that could be a whole different podcast, but more whole different. Um, but maybe just taking one thing from what I shared and touching on that. So I'm gonna leave it, let it flow. That was I can just share for myself as a woman, my relationship with sex was that idea. Oh yes. She also mentioned worthiness being
Mm.
attached to sexual validation, and how we are not like we think, oh, if we give a man sex, if we pleasure someone else, then that means that gives us confidence that we are wanted, that we are loved, that we are, that desire. And so I was like, oh, wow, okay. I realized like I was functioning from that in my earlier 20s, earlier, like
Yeah.
teens to early 20s, I was definitely engaging with people out of validation versus love, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now I've, after walking this journey of what does it mean to really love yourself, to respect yourself, and that comes with energetic protection. And who do I choose to give my energy to? Who do I choose to receive my energy from? And so I would love, that's my quick journey with it. And I
Mm-hmm.
would love to hear from you ladies as moms, as being in a committed relationship as yourself, Casey, how that's unfolded.
It's a big question.
Does anybody want to interject? I feel like I want to hear from Nalini, but
I'm bursting.
Yes,
no, she got some stuff
Well,
to
actually,
say.
please, please, please.
as a dancer, a belly dancer, which is a very
Yeah,
sexualized.
like so I started the belly dance in Trinidad. I'm actually in the history books because of the work I did in Middle Eastern. I also started pole in 2009 as well, So,
Very
it's I do work with a woman called Marlo Fiskin, who is an amazing sensual mover, and she trained me in somatics during the pandemic, and I'm still working with her and stuff and learning. But before I want to tell you something is that, well, that's what this book is about. Toward the goddess away from the doll. It's about the two dual. I love to write in duality because I don't think it's all about one way that one has to be. Today you could say, I'll never steal a loaf of bread, and tomorrow you're like, give me that damn bread, right? Because it depends on the situation that you're in. And as a young woman, there are 3 times in your life that you can experience what is called that higher ability that is going to happen. That it's because your body is wanting you to have babies at this time. So that is 18 to 24, 28 to 32. And then I believe there's a third moment, which is 38 to 46. So I call them the 3 arcs. Yeah, and it does match to, what is it? The maiden, the mother, and the crone. Nobody speaks about the possibility that the crone can have a baby, but again, Elizabeth had a baby, and she was who Mary went and visit, right? And we're in the month of Mary, yeah. So what I'm getting at is that how we see ourselves when we're in that sensual mode is because your hormones are actually saying, "Hey, it's time to have a baby," and your eyes tend to look different, your face begins to look different, you begin to take on this energy. What my book is about, which is toward the goddess at least. Away from the doll, is that we have rejuvenative power inside of our wombs, and we can actually make ourselves very rejuvenated in the face and in the mind by using that through sensual practices, which I teach. And it's not about masturbation per se, because masturbation actually makes you lose what is called chi energy. And that's why porn is like fast food. It's like the equivalent of fast food for the eyes and the brain. It actually makes you lose brain cognition. But some people still like porn. But it is like about finding balance as well. I mean, the to go into the whole porn industry, that's the next story. But the thing is that now porn is every day. You open your Instagram and there's some version of porn going on. Porn has now moved into the food arena. Porn is now in the just in decor arena. And you're thinking, decor? How could decor be porn? But it's like food for the eyes. It's hitting the dopamine just like anything else. I at least recognize these things. When you're seeing ooey gooey cheese and it's going on a steak and you're like, potatoes, it's the same dopamine hit. It's the same porn. So what it is that, as I said, like when you don't not to judge yourself too harshly, as you grow, because you're naturally going through different hormonal spaces. You're naturally going through different energetic spaces as well. A girl that has a baby at 22 and a girl who has a baby for the first time at 32 experience totally different things. Yeah.
Very different.
Mm,
I'm loving everything that you're bringing to this table today.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I do follow your page. I love the fact that you do belly dancing. I love dance. I think it's like extremely important to the body. I think it's extremely important to the feminine body and how we move. It's like falling in love with yourself. And to fall in love with yourself, you got to love every last follicle of your being in order for that to happen. And I have noticed that, let's be real, when we go to like clubs, like I don't go to clubs, but if you go to like a day party or something, everybody is standing on the side of the walls, right? Because they're nervous, right? They're in their thoughts. They're thinking, oh, what's somebody going to say? But you love that song that's coming on. But you guys just tapped in on that where like, well, people have to have a couple of drinks first before they get comfortable, before they're, you know what I mean? And you don't need that. It's really about just getting out of your head and saying like, I just need to get back into my body. And I think it's a huge thing. Sexuality is something that I think people only gain like as they get older. And it's interesting because I just talked to my mom yesterday, and I sent her a picture of my daughter because she just got a nose ring. And she was like, oh my gosh, Carrie is so beautiful. And she was like, but don't tell her that. I don't want it to go to her head. Side note to that, she would never tell me I was beautiful because she didn't want it to go to my head. And I was like, she didn't tell me till I was older. And I was like, Mom, you could have helped out a little bit by
would have been
telling me
helpful
these
to know,
things. But,
to feel that.
right? Going forward, I was like, no, Mom, I think it's important because like I sent the picture and then Carrie was like, oh my God, I can't believe you sent that picture and I didn't like it. And she was going off about it. And I'm like, no, it's a beautiful picture. Like you are beautiful. This is why I sent it. So after I told her that, she was like, what? I can't even believe that she would think that way. The conversation then led into my mom explaining that she didn't get confidence until she got into her 30s because like back then in like the season she is of darker skin and all of the family around her in Toronto were either white or fair skin, right? So they were mixed. And she would notice that like when she would go out with her cousins, so like little parties, all the boys would follow her cousin and she would just lag behind or she never got anybody to dance with. So she goes, I didn't gain my confidence until I was in my 30s. All of the light bulbs were clicking in my head, obviously. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm checking in on all these different things. But it ties into like, for me, I chose to go into exotic dancing at the age of 19. I don't know what it was. It was just something that I needed to tap into. I was in college at the time and I needed to make some fast money to help pay for school. And I thought like, what better way to do this? Like, I love to dance. Why not? Let's just join this. And I did it for like 5 years, my own choice. But so many people around me shamed me for doing these things. Meanwhile, I was like, how can you shame me when I'm seeing you do things that isn't that great either, but I don't judge you. And what I found going into that industry was that all of these beautiful women still had slight insecurities, still had little things within themselves that they were working through as they were going out there and putting on this character, this like total different, right, persona going up there on stage. And it's quite interesting that like the same, I don't want to say the same people, but because a lot of people shame it and maybe society shames it on women and then women just take it and then they want to shame other women for the things that they really actually want to tap into. It's important that we now tap into that because just like what you said, Nalini, that womb, it needs to move. It's like the vastness of our creativity. And yet so many of us don't tap into it and it gets so stiff that I've seen like friends of mine that is like, it's hard for me to get pregnant. And right away, I'm like, well, it's because you're just not like, you're not letting it all go. You're not getting your freak on. Like you need to just be able to release and just be comfortable in your own body. And it takes so much for people to do that. So I think it's amazing, Nalini, that you do. I love the fact that you do the belly dancing because it really works that sacral, that also helps the root chakra, that brings it up into the solar, that helps the confidence and right into the heart chakra, which is like love for the self is so beautiful. And then you just tapped into talking about pole dancing. Like we're in a time right now where we need to celebrate more of this feminine energy and what comes with it and not in this like how, let's be real, there are some men that'd be like the woman's body is beautiful, but they look at it in this way of like just the physical. And I think we need to move past that piece because it's not just that. it's the internal, it's what invokes that into the physical, right? I think we get lost with that in terms of like the surface level, but there's so much more for women to really grasp and like understand that you can really tap into that sensuality spiritually first. And through that, you'll get to uncover who you are. Through that, you'll get to fall in love with yourself. But it also takes just even like movement. So, like, not just movement physically, but movement spiritually, like mentally, emotionally. So, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that goodie.
No
Yes.
So
problem.
much goodness.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was gonna
Oh,
ask
I'm
you
just
guys,
agreeing.
right? Like, I mean, like we spoke about tight wombs. I found I've delved into like the medicine of this, the medicine of moving your womb, which links to your vagus nerve, as you want to say it, polyvagal theory. And the more I look at this, it is, as I said, the book is about that duality, you know, and why I'm saying like that duality, because yes, you need to be beautiful at some point. You need to be the maiden. You need to attract, but then also there are times where you need to care and round for things, and at other times you need to be the authority on it, right? That's the maiden, the mother, the crone. Men have been trained to look only out for the maiden.
I would even expand that and say society has been
Who?
trained to look at the maiden. Yeah.
And then teach the young men.
Emphasizing, yes, emphasizing the importance or the validity of this archetype only, not leaving that room for the mother and the crone to tap into all of those inherent maiden gifts as well. So I really appreciate that point.
Because when a
Yes.
man, this is me going into this is me going into Amending Lotus now because it covers men. In Amending Lotus, we speak about that it's done in a hypothetical story, so that's why it was kind of harder to create this one. Basically with men, right, when they're going through their existential crisis, which occurs between the ages of 28 till whenever they die, right? When a man reaches that, you see that society thing you said, Casey, is so on point because it draws back to the point that when he gets into that existential crisis, he should be looking for the mother, but instead, his wife, who's next to him, who's had his children, instead, he's looking for the maiden. So just saying. There you go.
It has the part two.
Part two, y'all.
Part
I just want to thank everyone. Actually, you remember the last time we did our first recording, and there was a huge storm coming, y'all, towards the end of that recording. I had to
Yeah,
run
but
upstairs. The same thing happened this time, and I had to come up with
Showers
and
of
I
blessings.
blessings. And what I felt in that moment as well was everything we spoke about. It's also Mother Nature releasing, crying, letting it go, letting the flow, the water, because we're all water, right? We're 75% water, y'all. Without water, there is no life. And that also ties into the divine feminine and the sacral chakra. And I just want to wrap up here and just honor and celebrate this conversation, thanking you, Rashida, Nalini, Casey, all of you for sharing your truth, for sharing your story. And it definitely hit that advice that you would give to your younger self. Talking to that younger version as you explain the archetypes of the type of woman as well. It was very interesting towards the end of how we were able to not just touch on divine feminine, but also divine masculine, and so many good nuggets. I just want to wrap up here. If we can all say one thing that really stood out to us that we may have learned today that we didn't know before. The biggest thing for me was the Reiki attunement with pregnancy and how it's you get attuned every time your body is preparing for a transition and transformative experience. and like this physical body is also a machine in a way. So as we level up, the body levels up in that, as well as you were saying with the different periods of preparing for pregnancy throughout our life. That was a huge thing I never knew before. So thank you, Nalini, for sharing
Mhm.
that nugget of wisdom.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
no problem.
We're handing it over to Casey on my screen share.
Sure. Yes. I also want to hold space to thank you as well, Ali, for bringing us all together, for
Yeah.
being that connective thread, for being the inspirational spark for this conversation. I'm so full. I process very slowly, so I have to like sit and really reflect on what was shared with me. One thing that is sticking out for me to share in this moment is the I don't remember the name of what gets built, but that structure that gets built at the end of Diwali to be burned, and just that
Ravan.
yes, that illustration, that mental illustration for myself as I move through almost humanizing darkness or humanizing negativity, so it doesn't feel so like such like a big bad wolf in my spirit, and so that visualization there really helped me to understand that that can be recreated in my own life. I can build a structure and charge it with thoughts that I want to let go of, or heavier thoughts that I want to release, and burn it and celebrate, the connection to the acceptance of negativity and the release of its hold on me. So thank you.
That's a beautiful one. I'm
And I
next.
will pass it on. Yes, Nalini, yes.
Yeah, so Ali, thank you very much. We sometimes have chats and we just go on and but I think why I appreciate this too is because they're all Reiki practitioners and masters, and even those on their way to masters, and it's a shared goal of trying to understand this energy force that we deal with. Casey, thank you for helping me even crystallize some of these thoughts that I've been having, especially that idea of society and men, and the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And it is something that is definitely a theme, and I'm going to play with it a little bit too myself, as I continue writing. And again, Rashida, you were from since Saturday. Yay, thank you so much. Yeah, and you can see how easily it is to get caught in that negative, especially when, like, even in our internet, where the media, everything is about pushing the thoughts of crime, pushing the thoughts of
Yes.
murder and pain and these very gruesome things. And it could even weigh in on even those who try to be positive. And I try to stand on that.
I
So
just
we
want
all
to
go through something.
I just want to
Is that?
pause a moment on the music as well in the Caribbean, how it really sexualizes everything. Growing up, it's subconsciously planting seeds with crime. Like as Trinidad music comes out, even with dancehall growing up, it's like you don't really know what you're consuming, right? And being very careful with that protection of what you consume, what you allow into your field. And thank you for also making that little point. So yeah.
Sure.
Wow. I don't even know if there's any words. First of all, just like thank you, Eliana and Casey, for putting this together. Very, very much appreciative. I love jumping on conversations like this. Nalini, I don't even know. Where have you been? Really? Like your Scorpio energy is just speaking volumes as we go into Scorpio season. Like, if y'all don't have a Scorpio friend in your life, like, I don't know what you're doing.
You need
Honestly,
one.
I don't know what you're doing. You need one in your life. They dive so deep, and I don't know if it's something that you like share, but like, thank you for sharing and keep sharing. Like,
Sure.
keep
Please.
sharing all of this goodness, like that darkness. No, we need it. No, we need it. We need it to come to the surface because it sheds light on so much stuff. And just like Casey, I have so much to process, so much to process
No,
out
y'all,
of
it's
this
nice to have
conversation.
someone to talk this talk with, and lace up
Yes,
the
for
laces
sure.
with.
Please continue to share your wisdom, is stuff that like it's some good, and I
Yes.
appreciate it. And thank you so much. And yes, a part two, Eliana, a part two.
For those of you also tuning in, as Nalini was mentioning with the sessions, we host Soulful Sessions every new moon and first quarter with your facilitators, Casey, Rashida, and possibly Nalini coming soon.
Nalini needs to come to the table.
Yes.
She needs to come to the
Well,
table.
I've been begging
sure.
Nalini. I've been begging Nalini to do a class, and we did one in-person dance class together. It was so well received. Those women, I kid you not, I went from 19 to the biggest class I've ever had, which was 21 people after Nalini's. She's a force to be reckoned with, and I'm
For
excited
sure.
when you guys can also take her classes
Oh,
virtual.
yes.
We host virtual classes as well. Not sure
Oh,
where.
really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reorganizing myself. I'm in that's where Rashida found me. I was in that coming out that skin. I will not lie. I mean, just 2 minutes, I will say that I began to honor myself where I was giving people who weren't ready to receive. And I had a moment where I was believing my own, what I call ANTS, automated negative thoughts, you know. I was there listening to it. So I had that moment, and it took a bit of climbing out, you know. And Rashida assisted me. She's recognizing that energy because it can get dark and it can hold on to you. But yeah, I mean, I think people who think these days are rare, and I really haven't had anyone to really. She's like, what? No, there's a lot of sleeping people right now.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're here to wake them up. Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't even think you realize how
Well, thinking
much you are here to
Yeah.
wake people up. Girl, I mean, I was awake and now it's like I took the shot of caffeine listening to you. Honestly, you touched on some things that like I love that darkness. I mean, yeah, it's my Scorpio that I have in me, but like you really brought some stuff out that needs to be shared. I can't wait to listen back to this. Like,
Me too.
Yes.
I'm gonna listen back because I'm listening back to Casey and you because y'all are helping me tie the laces. You know what I mean?
Well, celebrations. And that's what I also enjoy about these conversations when we come together, that it's a safe space, it's a sacred space. We know where one or more are present, y'all.
Yes.
Two or more.
Sorry, not I was just like two more. My bad. That's why we also have accountability and stage checks. Because in my head, I'm like, it's two. And then you say one. I'm so grateful for Casey. I'm so grateful for Rashida. I'm so grateful for Nalini. And I pray that whoever's listening to this, that you find your Casey, your Rashida, your Nalini as you continue to listen to these conversations. So much will open up for you. You may even be Reiki right now. Listening in. And as you continue along your journey, may you continue to be open to receiving. And when you come to this darkness, inviting it in, and what can you learn from it? You know, how can you transmute it? As Nalini said in the beginning, that's how we learn as humans. We need the darkness in order to recognize the light. So in a pre-shop Diwali, as they say, and if you are interested in learning more, just take a trip to Trinidad, you know.
Yes.
We look forward to seeing you next time. If you'd like to be part of our Soulful Sessions, send us a message and we'll see you there. Thank you so much. Take care,
Take care,
guys.
everyone.